Hello, I'm James and I'm here to show you around the 2017 Halloween experience. Now last year we did the Tunnel of Hell and it was brilliant. The new enclosed layout went down a treat with visitors and we had about 300 people come to see it across the evening. But this year I think we had even more people. It was absolutely incredible. So come with me and I'll show you around this year's show, the Dungeon of the Doom.
Traitors, your fate awaits here in the dungeon. Try not to lose your head. Don't hang around here. The Axeman will cut your head off.
Traitors! The guillotine is waiting for you! Chomp, chomp.
One more turn! One more turn! Don't hang around.
So here we are, back in a familiar location. Now this year I wanted to focus a bit more on characterisation. I thought it'd be a lot more immersive if the figures actually spoke to you as you walk through. So this year all the scenes and figures each have a set of voice tracks that were created for me by Darren Altman, who is a fantastic voiceover artist, and he came up with a brilliant range of voices for all of the mad figures in the walkthrough. There's more than one for each scene, and each time one is triggered, a track is selected at random, which gives more variation to the experience. So when you enter, there's some thunder and lightning, and you see through this window here the Axeman.
Your fate awaits here in the dungeon.
He says a few intimidating words, and then all of a sudden his head has disappeared, and you just see a severed neck. How does it work? Well, just behind here is a big piece of perspex, and it's coated in one-way film, which turns it into a big semi-transparent mirror. And that means that depending on the lighting either side of it, you can either see through it or see a reflection in it. So the first figure that you see, the chap with the head and the axe, he's positioned behind the mirror and lit from above. Meanwhile, opposite the mirror, at about 90 degrees to the viewing angle, is another figure, the headless one, hidden out of sight in darkness. Then we turn off the light behind the mirror and switch on the one above the headless figure, and now you can see its reflection. It looks like the same figure that's transformed, but obviously you're looking at a different one altogether that's been carefully matched, so it had to be built in reverse, of course, with the axe in the other hand because it's a reflection. And it was important to keep that headless figure out of the way, out of sight, which is why this window's been made slightly narrower this year. He's hidden behind the wall here, and I've also put this piece of black gauze in the way to disguise the fact that you're looking at a mirror. It hides the edges a bit more, which is good. So I think it's quite a fun effect, quite a nice way to start.
You there! Mind your head on falling blades and sharp axes!
Now moving around to our second window here, we have this chap hanging down from the window.
That'll cut your head off.
Now if you remember last year, we had the figure in chains hanging here, but he was always there, always visible, so I thought let's go one better and actually have something come crashing down in front of the window. So he's mounted on a frame just above here, and he's got a pneumatic cylinder which runs off a four-way air valve, which means the air is used to force the piston either in or out, which means we can use it to both reset the figure upwards but also to push it down with a bit more violence so it crashes into the window with a bit more speed. We've also got a passing steam down the bottom there which lights him up on cue. I think he's a great shock effect. He took quite a few people by surprise.
Traitors! Who will be the first to stick their neck out?
Now moving around here, we've got my favourite prop of this year, the guillotine. Now over here we've got a figure with a rope, and this chap here locked in the guillotine, and all of a sudden the blade comes down and beheads him. So how does it work? Well, this figure here is a straightforward pneumatic cylinder job, which moves him away from and towards the window. But over here, this required a bit more thinking with the guillotine. Now, what I wanted was a device that was capable of raising that guillotine blade upwards, holding it in position, and then dropping it on the cube. Above my head is a box with a motorised steel disc and a drum next to it on the same axle that's used to wind up the rope attached to the blade. Now on the side of the drum is an electromagnet, and when that's switched on it grips the steel disc, and of course when the motor is then started the drum rotates and the rope is wound onto it and the blade is winched up. How does it know when it's reached the top? Well, in the side of the blade are two small magnets, and as it's winched they pass two reed switches in the guillotine frame, and they detect magnetism, so when it passes that point it tells the controller to stop the motor. So at this point our blade is winched up into that position. We leave that electromagnet on, which holds it there until the point in the sequence where it's ready to be dropped. We then switch the magnet off, which causes it to lose its grip on that steel disc. The whole drum unwinds and the blade accelerates downwards as it falls under its own weight. Then for a reset we turn the electromagnet back on, we start the motor, the blade is then winched back up into position until it reaches that stop point and is then held there ready for the next trigger.
You've got it now. Oh, this is back-breaking work.
Now I've explained all that in detail because the last two scenes in here use exactly the same method to create movement. So in here we've got our torture rack, and it's a figure being stretched up and down there by the chap at the back. Now underneath there is another one of these boxes with exactly the same setup as the guillotine mechanism. This time I'm using it to pull that rope at the back downwards, which causes the chap to be elongated up the rack, and you'll notice it's on a slope as well, so of course when the motor box releases its hold the figure then slides back down again, he returns under his own weight, and as the rope is pulled down it turns that top black drum which is attached to the handle, which makes it look as though the figure at the back is turning it and stretching the victim.
Let me show you the ropes.
Now over here we have our final scene. It's got a chap hanging in a noose above some trapdoors, particularly final in this case. And we've also got our executioner chap here, and he's got his hand on the lever, and if I trigger this down here, the doors open and he falls through. There's a smoke machine down there and a strobe light as well for a bit of added effect. And this chap is winched up and down by, yes you guessed it, another one of those magnet and motor assemblies, and it allows it to be brought back up into position before the doors close again, ready for the next trigger. The two trap doors are moved by a pneumatic cylinder on each, which makes them move quite violently actually, which I like, and I think it's a nice dramatic scene to finish the walk through the dungeon. There's a couple of nice things on the way out. We've got this chap here hanging on the wall, and then at the exit, just before you reach the front door, we've got a good old classic haunted house effect. Another skeleton hanging on the wall, and when you go near to him, he gives you a bit of a shock. Now once visitors have collected their treats, they came across this section on the way out. Now one thing we've never done is collect money for charity, so I thought, well, why not, let's have a go at that this year. And I thought, well, instead of just having a bucket or something boring, how about a figure that actually spoke and thanked you for your donation? So I've got my friend the rat catcher here, keeping all these rats under control, and if I was to put a coin into this slot here, he moves and speaks one of a bank of about 5 different phrases. So I think it's a great way to finish, and a much more interesting way of raising a bit of money.
That's it. Spare me some dosh, and the Axeman will spare you. But now,